Gold should not exist on Earth, not in the form we know, not in the quantities we mine, not in the vaults of central banks, because gold was never meant to form here. Before there were continents, before there was water, before Earth had even cooled, a star died. Not quietly, not gently, but violently. In the collapse of a massive star, or in the collision of neutron stars, the universe briefly became a furnace of impossible physics. Under pressures so extreme that atoms were crushed together, lighter elements fused into heavier ones: iron, platinum, gold. In that instant, the periodic table was rewritten. And then the explosion scattered those newborn atoms across space. For millions of years, gold drifted in darkness, cold, silent, weightless, until gravity pulled it together again. Eventually, those particles became part of a forming solar system, and then part of Earth. But here is the first truth most people never hear. Almost all of Earth's gold is locked away forever. When this planet was young, it was molten, a churning ocean of fire. Heavy elements sank toward the center. Iron sank, nickel sank, gold sank. Most of it now lies deep in the core, beyond any possibility of extraction. What we mine today is not the original gold of Earth. It is residue. 4 billion years ago, metallic asteroids bombarded the surface. They carried additional gold, delivering it to the crust after the planet had already formed. That cosmic accident made human civilization possible, because without it, gold would be unreachable. But even with asteroid delivery, gold did not gather conveniently. It dispersed. Tiny particles scattered inside rock formations. Over millions of years, tectonic forces fractured Earth's crust. Water heated by magma circulated through cracks deep underground. This superheated fluid dissolved trace metals as it moved, and when it cooled, it left something behind: quartz veins. Inside those veins, microscopic particles of gold crystallized, invisible, rarely concentrated, almost never obvious. To produce just 6 grams of gold, an operation may need to extract and process 1 full ton of ore. 6 grams. That is the scale of the imbalance. Gold is not found in treasure chests. It is diluted inside geology, and discovering it is a scientific gamble. Modern gold mining begins long before excavation. Geologists analyze ancient fault systems, places where Earth once tore itself apart. Satellite imagery identifies chemical anomalies. Airborne surveys detect magnetic variations. The ground is scanned for subtle signals, but surface data is not enough. Exploratory drilling begins. Core samples are extracted, cylindrical records of rock history. Each sample is logged, measured, chemically analyzed. Results are expressed in grams per ton. Most readings show almost nothing. Sometimes they show enough. And when they do, the economics begin. Because mining gold is not just geology, it is calculation. Heavy equipment, infrastructure, labor, energy, all must be justified by concentration. If the numbers work, the landscape changes. When deposits lie near the surface, the earth is carved open. Topsoil is removed, waste rock stripped away. Gigantic excavators load fragmented rock into trucks taller than houses. The mine descends in massive horizontal steps, engineered for stability. Some pits stretch for kilometers, visible from orbit. In harder formations, engineers drill patterns into the rock and insert controlled explosives. Detonations are timed with millisecond precision. The goal is not chaos. It is controlled fragmentation, because mining is not destruction. Mining is controlled displacement. But not all gold lies near the surface. When veins run deep and narrow, operations move underground. Tunnels are drilled through solid rock. Walls reinforced with steel bolts. Concrete sprayed to prevent collapse. Ventilation systems push oxygen down and pull toxic air up. Temperatures can exceed 50 degrees Celsius. Water intrusion is constant. Pumps never stop. Inside these tunnels, drilling crews follow precise patterns. Explosives are placed in sequence. Detonation is carefully timed. After ventilation clears the air, loaders collect the fragmented rock. It is transported upward, sometimes through vertical shafts hundreds of meters deep, from darkness to daylight. But still, it is only rock. Gold remains trapped inside. At processing facilities, the ore begins its transformation. Primary crushers reduce large rocks to fragments. Secondary crushers make them smaller. Then massive rotating mills filled with steel balls grind the material into powder. This stage is critical. Gold must be liberated from the rock matrix. The powder mixes with water, forming a slurry. Now chemistry begins. In many operations, a dilute cyanide solution is introduced. Cyanide binds selectively with gold. It dissolves microscopic particles, separates them from waste material. The process is tightly controlled, monitored constantly to prevent environmental contamination. From that solution, gold is recovered, sometimes by adding zinc, which causes gold to precipitate back into solid form. Other times through activated carbon, which absorbs dissolved gold particles. What remains is a concentrated form of the metal, filtered, dried, prepared for fire. Furnaces reach temperatures above 1,000 degrees Celsius. Under extreme heat, gold melts, impurities separate. Liquid metal glows intensely, heavy, luminous, unmistakable. It is poured into molds, solidifies into bars. These initial bars are not yet pure. They contain traces of silver, copper, other metals. To achieve investment-grade purity, further refinement is required. Electrolytic refining is one of the most precise methods. Impure gold becomes the anode in an electrochemical cell. When electric current flows, gold atoms dissolve and redeposit on the cathode as nearly perfect crystals. Layer by layer, the result is 99.99% pure gold. 4 nines. Global standard. But here is the deeper truth. Gold is not powerful because it is shiny. It is powerful because it is stable. It does not rust. It does not decay. It does not react easily. Across thousands of years, civilizations rose and collapsed. Currencies inflated. Banks failed. Empires dissolved. Gold remained. Today, central banks hold tens of thousands of tons in vaults. Not for decoration, for credibility. Gold functions as a hedge against systemic risk, a reserve asset, a universal measure of stored trust. Its journey, from cosmic explosion to underground vein to refinery to vault, is not just geological, it is structural. Gold connects astrophysics to economics, star death to monetary policy. And yet, its availability is fragile. Mining production depends on energy costs, political stability, environmental regulation, and industrial precision. The gold supply chain is not simple. It is a system. Geology, engineering, chemistry, logistics, finance. Each stage is a gate. Each gate is a bottleneck. Gold in the ground has no power. Gold refined, certified, stored, that is power. The real story of gold is not about treasure. It is about transformation. From stellar violence to geological accident to industrial extraction to financial stability. Gold should not exist here. And yet it does. A residue of cosmic chaos disciplined by human systems into measurable certainty. In the modern world, wealth does not begin in markets. It begins underground. And it only becomes real when useless rock is transformed into defined purity. Gold is not rare. Gold is selected. Selected by the universe. And then by industry. The next question is not how much gold remains. The real question is, which other materials born in stars and buried in rock are quietly shaping the stability of our civilization?